Hello, everyone, and welcome to Balanced Bodybuilding Radio. I am your host, Leemarie. I am a Glam Girl Bikini coach and an NPC Bikini competitor, and I am here with my coach and my co-host.
Hey guys, Amy Anger, Glam Girl Bikini founder and CEO.
So if you tuned in last week, we talked about fitness myths, and we did a little bit of myth busting, and then there were a few that we actually did not agree with. So we're going to finish out that episode, and we're going to talk about now these are popular fitness myths. So these are statements that this article is saying these statements are myths. And so we're going to go through the second half today and see if we agree with this article that these are actually myths, or if there is some level of truth to these statements. So we left off, we did the first 14 last week. So if you did not listen to that episode, go tune in. It was really fun. But we're going to start with number 15 here. And that is a calorie is a calorie. Basically saying all calories are equal when it comes to energy. And they are saying that this is a myth. What do you think?
Yeah, a calorie is not true completely, especially when you look at like sugar alcohols. So everyone's digestive tract will absorb different sugar alcohols differently. So like the carbs that occur from sugar alcohols, some people, absorb less, and then some people absorb more. And like fiber can have a big contributing factor too, where that's why net carbs are really hard to actually try to do, because not everybody digests exactly the same. So some people will absorb way more nutrients than others. So yeah, that's my idea there.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to also make the point that what they're talking about is obviously when you're tracking calories, it doesn't matter if you track a burger or if you track broccoli, rice, and chicken, as long as the calories equate and the macros equate, you can still lose weight. And I do believe in flexible dieting, but I don't think all calories are equal, just for the sake also of nutrients and what our body needs, and that some foods are highly palatable. So it's going to make it harder to actually stick to those calories. But with the nutrients, I do think that our bodies need to be healthy in order to lose weight and gain muscle as well, to a certain point. So you definitely want to watch that too. So I definitely agree that a calorie is not a calorie. However, I also don't like demonizing certain foods. So if you're not in contest prep right now, if you are in an improvement season, or if your lifestyle trying to lose weight, I actually think it's really important to have some flexibility in your nutrition and to be able to count your macros and fit things like burgers or, a meal out with your family or something that you crave in, with that 80-20 rule. So that's my take.
Yeah. And actually, I think what this is trying to get to is the thermic effect of food, because a calorie is not just a calorie. Like protein, you actually burn way more calories than you do by consuming fat. So if you're eating a chicken breast versus, and also just like if you're eating a peanut versus peanut butter, some people will excrete the nuts. I know that sounds really gross, but like you don't actually absorb all of the nuts, but once it's been processed, you absorb more calories with peanut butter versus peanuts, just as a simple example. And I believe it's, so like for the thermic effect of food, carbs are like, I want to say it's like around 4 calories to burn, or you burn by like consuming them, depending on the individual. And then it's like 9 calories to digest protein, and then like 0 to 1 calories for fats. So there really is the thermic effect of food. And that's why when people are getting ready for a contest prep, it's really important to have single ingredient foods, because your body doesn't take as much work to digest things like protein powders and things that, you know, are fine to have pretty much year round. But like when it gets down to the nitty gritty, you want to elevate your metabolism by eating whole foods so that your body has to work harder to burn them. So that will raise your metabolism rather than eating like protein bars and protein powder and stuff like that.
Exactly. I love it. Okay. So number 16, you can't get in shape without motivation. I think what they're trying to say is that this is a myth that you can't rely on motivation. And I do believe that you can't rely on motivation, but I do think motivation is what gets most people started. And I think the myth is that they believe that motivation is what's going to drive them, and it's going to be what keeps them going, when really what keeps you going is going to be your discipline, your habit building, possibly accountability with a coach or a fellow athlete, somebody you're doing it with, or a goal like getting on stage or going on a vacation or something like that. So I think motivation is really important to help someone take that first step. But I don't think it's reliable. I think it comes and goes.
Well, and I think too, like if you're in a sedentary job and you have to work, you have to make money doing it, and then you switch to just a highly active job where you're never sitting down, you're always moving, you're gonna probably get into shape doing like a labor intensive job, and you don't need motivation to lose that weight or to get in shape. It's just that you're way more active by default. So
It's
I mean,
really
that's
true.
like a weird example, but
no, that's a really good point. Life circumstances can make you. I mean, even stress, sometimes you're moving, you know, if you move across states or even just move your house, you're busy, you're actually physically moving, you're stressed, you might just, those circumstances might
you don't have
cause
to be
you.
motivated to do that. Like you just have to you have to do
That's a
that.
really
And
good
then
point.
by default, you could just get into shape.
That is a
Okay,
myth.
so barbells, dumbbells, machines, and or kettlebells are essential.
I think they're saying in order to build muscle.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I do think there is something to the fact that you can't just, I mean, I think we all found in the shutdown that you can't really do just like body weight workouts and get like super far. I mean, you know, there's if you're starting from ground zero, yes, but in the bodybuilding community, you really do have to lift heavy weights. And I always tell people that have just like a home gym with simple dumbbells that, yeah, you can totally do your arm workout at home, but you know, for back and for legs, it's going to be really difficult to grow muscle if you can't put like a heavy load on those larger muscle groups, in my opinion.
I think in the long term, that's correct. I think a one-off workout, sometimes you can get a really great workout. For example, a couple of years ago, my band went on tour to Europe for a month. And I was very concerned about finding gyms to work out at, staying in shape, all this stuff. And we were going to be there for 30 days. And so what I did is I committed to do Jillian Michaels 30-day shred. And I brought I think I had it on my phone or something. And so I did it every single day. And sometimes if I found a gym, I think we went to like 4 or 5 gyms the whole time we were there, then I would just do a regular workout. But I would use my suitcase, and then I would use anything that I could find. So whatever hotel room we were in, I would like lift the end table, or I would find jugs of water, or I would use my suitcase and I would do that. And I kept in shape just by doing something like that. And I just used what was around. Now, would I have been
unconventional items? I like it.
Yeah. Would I have been able to keep that up and do a prep? No, but it worked for me for those 30 days. So if you're like on a trip and you're like, I don't have anything, but I'm in a hotel room and I have a band or something, I definitely think you could do a good workout that day without a gym. But long-term progress, you want to have some sort of resistance, like weights.
Yeah, my mom has soup cans that she
Nice.
does exercises.
Gallon jugs.
I'm like, what are these doing out? And she's like, oh, those are my weights.
I love that. That's amazing. Okay, so number 18, it's okay to reward yourself with treats. I think this is in context of fat
Food.
loss. So I do know a lot of people, I know friends that will say to me, I was so good all week. I followed everything. So like we'll be getting coffee. They'll be like, so I'm going to reward myself. I'm going to treat myself. And they'll get some
Mhm.
Starbucks drink that's 650 calories. And it's
And
like,
pull
well,
themselves out of, yeah,
I
pull them out
mean,
of the
you
deficit.
did great, but we underestimate what an effect that reward can have. It can actually, if you
Yep.
average it out, put you back up into maintenance calories. So then
Yeah.
your whole week,
Yeah.
it's like, well, what did you even do?
Yeah. I think if you think about treats as not a food item, then
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, because like you should treat yourself to like new workout clothes. If you were able to, if you made it your goal to work out for a full month,
Mm-hmm.
6 days a week, and you completed it, and that was like what your carrot at the end of the stick was. Like if you did that, accomplished that, then you got new like Lululemon pants or something like that.
Or a
But I would try
massage.
to, yeah, there's so many different ways to treat yourself. Um, I know one of my clients, she's done several shows, and um, she committed to herself that this show coming up that she was going to do like spa treatments and things instead of doing post-show treats,
Mm-hmm.
make her treats like recovery and like treat yourself, treat
Yes.
yourself items, where you're actually just like pampering yourself
Mm-hmm.
versus putting a bunch of junk in your body that you
Yes.
probably don't need or
No,
want.
exactly. Okay, so number 19, this is a good one. Your digestive system turns off, in quotes, when you go to sleep. So basically, they were talking about if you eat carbs late at night or something, they're going to automatically get stored as fat because as soon as you go to sleep, your body doesn't digest them at all.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I do know that you have different micro biome that is like nocturnal, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have diurnal where there's certain bacteria. And if you think about it, I know this is a weird thing to say, but like most people don't go poop in the middle of the night.
Right.
There's a reason for that because different bugs, like different gut bugs, are awake at night. And so there is like it doesn't actually turn off, but just different things happen, I think,
Mm-hmm.
with the digestive system. So I don't
I
know.
think too, it's as long as you're hitting your calories, like if you are in a calorie deficit, meal timing is important, especially around your workouts. And if you're saving all of your carbs to eat some big snack at night, that's not ideal because you need energy throughout the day. But let's say one day you run behind in meals and you happen to eat a meal later than usual. If you hit your overall calories, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only thing that you ever want to worry about is just like sleep disruption
Mm-hmm.
because of carbs elevating your temperature at night.
Yes.
But other than that, I mean, you still are digesting your food. There's some foods that take up to 16 hours to digest. So, a lot of people do fasting windows and things like that so they can have cell autophagy happen. So that they give their food enough time to fully digest so that their cells can, kind of like get rid of the bad cells and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's good.
all
Okay,
right.
so 20, you need to give 100% every time you work out, or it's just a waste of time.
Yeah. I mean, I think just any effort is good. I mean, you can do a deload that's, you're doing 80% and you're
Mm-hmm.
just working on technique,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get really sore from that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, 100%. Yeah, it doesn't, in a perfect world, it just, doesn't exist. Like
Right,
you
exactly.
can't
And
always
it
give
changes. It
100.
always changes. Like
Hmm.
I always try to give the 100% effort that I have that day and not
Yeah. Yeah.
not give less than I had that day. That's even more mental for me. If I leave the gym knowing I gave about 60% that day, that's kind of a bummer. And I know that I let myself down, but I know that my giving my 100% effort is going to look different days and different weeks of the month. as a female and things
Yeah.
like that. And so I think it's more important that you're giving your effort, but then it is, I definitely think deloads are important, especially after something like a show. Or if you just find yourself constantly dragging through the gym, or you're needing to lift lighter, you're fatigued, you're, tired all day after your workout, things like that, you might need a deload.
Yeah. And I think just showing up, sometimes that's like half the battle. So
Mhm.
yeah, you may not be 100% that day, but you got in there and you gave it your effort. So any kind of effort is going to create a stimulus, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, it doesn't have to be 100% imperfect.
Even keeping momentum, I think, is really good.
Hmm.
Especially for, as competitors, we're used to being really disciplined and most of us love going to the gym. But even
Yep.
in the off season, keeping up that momentum. And then if we're lifestyle and you have a goal, but you're not used to going to the gym every day, if you don't feel like going to the gym, but you still go and just walk for 20 minutes on the treadmill, like you kept up that momentum too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So number 21 is, there's a little typo in my notes, but
Yeah. I
it
was going
is
to say, that hope
my
it's not a myth.
my notes don't say this right. The actual myth is that women should not lift weights, but in the context it was that women should not lift heavy weights. They should stick to the light weights, stick to the higher reps, don't lift too heavy.
I think we talked
And
about this in part 1.
yes, we did. We talked about carrying babies, carrying groceries, doing that one trip, hauling, big baskets of laundry around the house, and then going to the gym and thinking if we lift more than 5 pounds, we're going to get bulky. Women should definitely lift weights.
Luckily, we've progressed as a society, and that's not typically the case of what most people think. So,
And I'm going to go even further and say women should lift heavy weights. You are not going to get super bulky, like even genetically, but you also have to eat a lot of food. And a lot of us are, if we're trying to get fit, we're actually watching our calories. So we're not eating enough to actually build all of that muscle. So yeah, lift heavy, build that lean muscle.
yeah, it's important to, especially for women, because as we age, we lose a lot of bone density once our estrogen goes down. And we need that bone density that we get through resistance training. So, super important. All right. You should mostly focus on short-term goals is number 2. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's a myth. I think you need to have long-term and short-term goals. I think long-term goals is good to keep you going when you're in a slump, but short-term goals are motivating and it's important to have something to celebrate. So I like having even daily goals that I can check off. I like having weekly
Mhm.
goals. I like having monthly goals, but then I have like lifetime goals, like what you were saying. I want to be strong. I want to be able to have, be fit in my 80s. You know what I mean? And I know that
Yeah.
starts now. I want to have strong bones. I want to keep up my muscle. I want those habits now. And I want to be super healthy my whole entire life. But being super healthy when I'm 80 is not necessarily going to motivate me for a leg day if I'm really, really tired. So having shorter term goals, like for me, I'm in prep right now. So my goal is to get on stage. That's a huge goal. Thinking about that gets me to the gym every day. But then, I have goals for the week. I check in with you every week and my goal is to make progress that week. I have goals for the day. I have things, my checklist that I want to check off, our challenge that we're doing, the Glam and Grit challenge, that we have those checklist things that we check off every day. And that just gives me satisfaction. And that's motivating as well.
Yeah. I definitely think you always need a vision, and the
Mm-hmm.
short-term goals are great for chunking that down
Mm-hmm.
into something that's bite-sized pieces, but you always have to have that long-term vision. Otherwise, you're kind of just like spinning your wheels and you're not going in a direction.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
it's easy to get into the daily task once you have that long-term goal to kind of like guide you in your daily actions to get to that
Mm-hmm.
long-term big item, like that big hairy
Absolutely.
goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
23 3. Calories and macros on nutrition labels are 100% accurate. 100% false. That would not be true. Yes. I mean, calories are just such a poor way of measuring things anyway, because the Food and Drug Administration allows companies to be off by 30%. That's a huge percentage to be off by. Huge.
Now, I have a question about that. That's about calories. So if you look at like a protein bar and it says 200 calories, it could be 30% higher or 30% lower. I mean, obviously for marketing, if it's 30% off, it's probably 30% higher because they're not going to want to put a higher calorie mark on, right? But how about actual macronutrients? So if you look and there's 20 grams of protein, can that number be up to 30% off?
Yeah. I mean, it could be
crazy. So there's another reason why limiting, packaged processed foods is a smart idea if you do have like a physique goal. So if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to build muscle, if you're in prep or in an improvement season, sticking with whole foods that don't need a label. They're just, I mean, chicken is chicken, eggs are eggs, there's going to be slight discrepancies, but not 30% of calories.
So. Yeah, because if you have one ingredient and you weigh it, like there's no guessing. It's just, it is what it is. And yeah, if you have a processed food, the packages are just, sometimes I think I mentioned on a previous podcast, like those cookies, those no-cow cookies, just the package said that it was like 65 grams, but some would be 55, some would be 75. So just the actual weight of the cookie was off. So even that measurement tool is off. And then that makes all of the macros off. And then if there's like an ingredient type of food, so like you're going for a brownie, you may have like a cluster of like a bunch of chocolate chips in one part. And there's just not a good mathematical way of like splitting those things up. So when you're making giant batches of things, it's just really hard to calculate.
True.
All right.
Okay, so 24. Here we go. Fasted cardio is best.
Yeah. So I know that the science has proven this to be incorrect. So basically what happens is if you do fasted cardio, you're burning more fat when you are doing that activity, but then you burn more glucose later in the day. And then vice versa. If you're doing fed cardio, you're actually burning more glucose at the time, but later in the day you burn and oxidize more fat. So the current and best research that's like, the landmark paper for this is just that it's showing that they're both very equal. And so it doesn't really matter. I think what matters is what your preference is. So for me, I like it kind of like allows me to push back my eating window if I do my cardio fasted.
Yep.
And because it's kind of an appetite suppressant for me. And so I like to do a fasting window for intermittent fasting. So it works really well for me. Some people that have like blood sugar problems and things, like they need to be able to eat first before they do cardio. I think it's really just based on personal preference. And then also like how your lifestyle is and how you fit it in. But from a fat burning and calorie burning standpoint, it's really not superior.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay.
All right. 25. We got 3 left. 25. You have to exercise 45 minutes at least 3 times a week to see results.
Random numbers.
So random.
Who pulled that out of their butt?
Yeah. Yes. Let's make sure we're doing that. No,
yeah,
you don't have to do a certain amount. What you need to see results is that you are having like a progressive overload. So if you start at ground zero and you start to take a walk every day, you're going to see some results. But then you're going to have to step it up a little bit more. You might have to walk a little bit longer, or maybe you start going to the gym and you add in a couple of workouts. If you have never done a workout and you start working out a full body routine twice a week, you're going to start seeing results. But then you're going to want to progressively overload by lifting heavier or doing different workouts or adding time, adding reps, adding days as you go.
Yeah. I mean, the American Council for Exercise, or like the American Heart Association, they recommend like 150 minutes per week of moderate activities. So that can be like walking and things like that. And then 75 minutes per week of vigorous activity is kind of like the recommendation from the American Heart Association. So I don't know if the math adds up there.
It doesn't.
45
That's
times
such
3.
a random number.
Yeah, it's very random.
Apparently it's a myth, a well-known thing that is definitely a myth.
All right. Well, we are to our last 2. So 26 fats are bad. Who said that? Not me.
I think everyone in the 90s.
Fats are your friend. Yeah, I know.
Low fat is healthy.
Well, it's so funny because my dad came from that era, and when, like fat was demonized, and he always had this drawer of Twizzlers, and he'd be like, "What? They say no fat on them."
Yep.
Like, yeah, but you don't want calories, like sugar, all this stuff. Like, it's a lot of carbs.
Yeah. No, fats are amazing. Fats are needed. You need to find the amount of fats that is essential for you and for your goals. And yes, fats are very calorically dense. So they're high calories versus protein and carbs. So that's, fat servings are smaller than protein and carb servings. So of course you want to watch that you're not overeating a bunch of fats, because overeating a bunch of anything is going to be unhealthy, but fats are good.
Yeah, but you have to have fats to function. Like
essential.
Your hormones will not function if you do not have fats. So yes.
And they're delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Here we go. Lifting light weights or body weight exercises doesn't do anything for you. All the benefits come from lifting heavy.
Okay, so they're kind of doing the opposite of what they said earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a balance of both, right? I mean, if you're looking for pretty muscle, so you're looking for a hypertrophy goal, then you want to put time under tension. So you can do really lightweight with supersets, and you can do lightweight for like eccentric and different tempo workouts, and you will get sore. You will grow from some slow, like by slowing it down. You don't have to necessarily lift heavy. And sometimes when we lift heavy, then we disengage the muscles that we're trying to focus on in a hypertrophy goal. Now, if you're a power lifter, probably do want that because your goal is to lift as much weight as possible. But it just really depends on your goal.
I think it depends on the exercise as well. I know something like a dumbbell lateral raise. For me, if I try to go too heavy, I immediately start using my traps, which is not the muscle that I want to be working out in that movement. And so I specifically need to go to an embarrassingly, for me as a, former powerlifter, an embarrassingly lightweight, just to create the muscle stimulus in the right muscles. But something like an RDL or a deadlift, I would not feel that muscle stimulus that I need to if I was lifting light dumbbells. So I do think it's like the different exercise, selections.
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely. But that is it. Those are our myths. But what I want is, if you're listening to this and you have a statement about fitness, nutrition, health, anything like that, that you want to know or you believe is a myth, DM us on Instagram at Balanced Bodybuilding Radio. Give us some of what you think is a myth or what you're wondering is a myth. And we will continue to discuss these fitness myths or not myths. So make sure you follow us as well at Balanced Bodybuilding Radio on Instagram. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, share this with a friend. We really appreciate all of you listening. Anything else?
Yeah, and we had a couple questions that we'll definitely address in future episodes. So Michelle, Kat, don't think that we've forgotten you. We will definitely address your questions. And if you guys have more questions, we'd love to hear from you. As always, if you leave a rating or review, that just passes it on to the next person that is interested in the same topic. So please take the time to do so and pay it forward to other people.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank you so
listening.
much for listening.